The British government and scientific advisors have decided that they can possibly extend the amount of time given between the first dose and the second dose of those vaccines that have been authorised here. And they say that's because while the vaccines are advised to be given at around 1 month interval, 21 days for one of the vaccines and 28 for the other, they do give some immediate immunity within the first 10 days or so. And they feel that in the public health crisis that the country is facing, especially with rising numbers every day and this new strain, which is easier to transmit, it makes more sense to give more people some coverage from the vaccination than it does to give half the number of people full coverage from the vaccinations. And they say that the data actually supports that. They say that operationally, it's recommended that the second dose of both vaccines, therefore, should be routinely scheduled between 4 and 12 weeks after the first dose. So that 4 weeks is the original plan in the research done by Pfizer and also on the Oxford vaccine. But they say that this will allow more people to benefit from the protection provided from the first dose during the rollout phase, and the longer-term protection will then be provided by the second dose some weeks later. If an interval longer than the recommended dose is left between doses at recommended interval, the second dose should still be given, they say, preferably using the same vaccine as was given for the first dose. Now, this preferably idea is what's worrying some people, the idea that they could be mixing and matching the vaccines. Now, they're very clear in saying that's not what they're planning to do at all, but that this is something that can be done in emergencies. And in the government's Green Book, they say there's no evidence for the interchangeability of the COVID-19 vaccines, although studies are underway. Therefore, every effort should be made to determine which vaccine the individual received and to complete with the same vaccine. But for individuals who started the schedule and who attended for vaccination at a site where the same vaccine is not available, or if the first product received is unknown, this is in extreme circumstances, then they say it's reasonable to offer one dose of the locally available product to complete the schedule. So a lot of discussion over these issues, but generally speaking, Britain is still in third place in the world for vaccination numbers. And when you look at the countries ahead of it, Israel and Bahrain, Britain has an enormous population compared to those two countries, has actually been extremely rapid in authorizing these two vaccines and rolling them out to the nation as needed.
Now, you mentioned here a bit of this, the homegrown potential game changer here, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine now emerging into the healthcare system as well. Is that expected to really tip the scale now in terms of getting the vaccines out much quicker?
Yes, that Oxford researched AstraZeneca vaccine is due to be rolled out from Monday, and that means that potentially many more people will be being vaccinated. There's talk of this being much easier to produce and much easier to distribute, with some of that production taking place in the UK as well. And that's because this vaccine is a bit more like some of the more traditional vaccines we've seen for other conditions, whereas the messenger RNA vaccines, such as the BioNTech one, are actually a new technology. This is more closely linked to traditional vaccines. It's easier to produce. It doesn't require super refrigeration for distribution around the country, which has been one of the logistical problems in all countries using the other vaccine. And so the hope is that this will be something that can be spread far and wide. But supply will be a problem for every country and for every vaccine around the world, because this is a problem for the entire planet. And there is simply not enough capacity to make enough vaccine of any type for all the people who need it quickly enough. That's, of course, what's caused the British government and scientific advisors to decide to front load the vaccines and give out as many first doses as possible in order to try to stem these numbers of people getting COVID-19 and having it in a serious way that might involve hospitalization or death.